3 Lives, 3 Worlds, Lotus Steps Book 3. One Step for 1,000 Kalpas. Chapter 5. By Tangqi. To the east of the East China Sea lies the 10-mile peach grove of the god Jian. Mid-spring is the time when flowers bloom, and the peach groves are filled with blooming flowers and glowing clouds. His Highness the Third Prince walked among the flowers and trees with his hands behind his back, lowering his head and thinking about things as he walked. Previously, in the desperate situation, Zhu Ti fainted before she could tell him where to send her after helping her out. Therefore, after successfully bringing her out of the southern wilderness, His Highness the Third Prince took it upon himself to send her to Shirley Peach Grove and asked God Jian to diagnose her pulse. Although his appearance is unreliable, his medical skills are outstanding and are recognized as unparalleled in the world. Facts also proved that he was right to bring her here. Jian Shengshan said that in Guangshan's case, nothing could be diagnosed by diagnosing the pulse, and that it was necessary to use the soul-chasing technique to sneak into her consciousness and explore her soul. The soul-chasing technique is a technique that can only be performed by gods at the level of gods. His Highness is only 70,000 years old, so it is still early for him to be catastrophized by the gods. However, he hunts many books and understands this technique in theory, so he knows how to use chasing souls. The soul technique can be used to explore the soul of an immortal, and it can be accomplished in a quarter of an hour at most. Unexpectedly, it took 7 full hours to detect the soul of Zhu Ti on Jian Shang. Sweat dripping from Zhu Ti's consciousness, Jian God adjusted her breath for a long time before asking him to come over and speak. As you have judged, she used her own spiritual power to resist the evil force. Due to her limited spiritual power, she could not supporting the adult immortal body. She returned to her childhood. Seeing his stunned look, God Jian raised his eyebrows and smiled. Oh, based on appearance alone, she does look like a half-grown girl, but the god of light is 40,000 years old. Now that she is an adult, if we explore her consciousness and spiritual power, she is no more than 10,000 years old at this time. Regardless of body or mind, she is still a child. It can indeed be said that she has returned to her childhood. After a moment of surprise, his heart sank slightly. I have thought before that in the thousand extremities situation, the spiritual power in her body would take the initiative to fight against the evil force because she could not use magic power at that time. When she wakes up, maybe she can use the magic power in her body to counteract the evil force and replace the spiritual power. In this way, once she has sufficient spiritual power to support her immortal body, she should be able to return to her original state. According to what the god said, this path is to take. It doesn't make sense, does it? God Jian held up his palm and said, Donghua often praises Tianjun that the youngest is the wisest among the 3 sons. This is not a lie. Perhaps he thought he was smart, and out of admiration, the god's words were filled with kindness. What you think is correct, but now, Zhu Ti is still a child and cannot control the magic power of the adult god of light in his body. Therefore, the path you mentioned will not work. It is best. At this point, the god, after a pause, he asked him, I'd heard that Donghua is in retreat recently. Do you know how long he will be in retreat? After hearing his answer that the emperor would be released from seclusion in a month or 2, Shongshan tapped his finger on the edge of the table and wrote a recipe. After Zudi wakes up, just let her maintain the status quo. When Donghua comes out of seclusion, let Donghua use his majestic immortal power to fight against the evil power in Zhu Ti's body, and help her replace her spiritual power and restore her body. After she recovers her body, Zhu Ti will naturally know how to extract the evil power from her body, and this matter will be solved. Let's deal with it this way. It's the safest way, she said and looked at him, but before Donghua comes out of seclusion, you have to ensure that Zhu Ti's condition is stable, and you can't let her mood swing too much, and you can't let her use her magic power to use heavy magic, because both of them will shake her internal balance and put her in danger. After everything was explained, the god stood up calmly. I heard that Zudi was a child. He paused and shrugged. Well, forget it. I actually had no friendship with her when I was a child, and I don't know. True or not, She patted him on the shoulder and smiled meaningfully, if it's true. Anyway, I wish you good luck. God Jian placed all the responsibility for taking care of God Zudi in the future. His Highness could understand, after all, he was the one who brought the people. Ever since Qingyang returned, he and Emperor Donghua had been exploring the Demon Lord. After Zhu Tizhen woke up, he was also exploring Qingyang's affairs, which coincided with them. His Highness the Third Highness is not someone who likes to take matters into his own hands, but now that Zhu Tiai's divine body, the Nashi Emperor's blade, has the evil power, if she is not careful, she will be in danger. He will send her back to Zhengze and hand her over to her few divine envoys. Rest assured. The safest way is indeed for him to take care of her personally until the Emperor comes out of seclusion. He did not resist this matter, but how to make her agree to stay by his side and let him take care of her without irritating her emotions. His Highness the Third Prince rubbed his forehead, thinking, and stepped into the shelter. Xiao Zudi's bamboo house. As soon as he stepped into the outer room, he heard a crisp sound, and His Highness paused. There was a rustling sound in the inner room, and His Highness raised his eyebrows. He walked slowly around a plain screen, turned around a floor-to-ceiling cover, and saw a little girl in a moon-white dress lying quietly on the bamboo couch. Up, as if sleeping. His Highness the Third Prince walked over and sat in front of the bamboo couch. His eyes glanced at the broken white jade tea bowl on the ground. He tapped his folding fan lightly on the edge of the couch and said, "Stop pretending. I know you're awake." Hearing these words, little Zudi's thick eyelashes trembled, but other than that, she didn't give any reaction. Seeing that the girl was about to pretend to be asleep until the end, His Highness said nothing more and suddenly leaned forward. Feeling his approaching breath, little Zudi's eyelashes trembled thickly. Just when the two people were less than half an arm apart, she suddenly opened her eyes, sat up suddenly, pushed the third prince, and quickly stepped back a few feet. She said in a smooth movement, "What are you going to do?" He looked warily at His Highness the Third, who was sitting in the bamboo chair again. The girl's voice is very soft and delicate. Even if it is deliberately lowered and she looks fierce, it has no intimidating effect. Her breasts are fierce, so not only is she not scary, but she can be said to be very cute. His Highness the Third Prince couldn't help laughing when he saw her look like this. "Of course I'm waking you up. Am I trying to cover you with a quilt?" Little Zudi pursed her lips, pulled the cloud quilt, and stepped back a few inches. She first looked at the young man in front of her carefully and then looked around. She woke up just now and wanted to drink water. As soon as she poured the tea, there were footsteps outside. She was startled and dropped the tea bowl with a shaking hand. As soon as the tea bowl was broken, she woke up completely and found that she was in a strange place. She didn't know what was going on. When she heard the footsteps getting closer and closer, she didn't have time to take a closer look. She decisively chose to pretend to be asleep. Only then did she finally see what the bamboo hut looked like. She had never seen it before. "Been to this place?" Xiao Zudi frowned and asked, "Did you kidnap me here?" His Highness the Third Prince replied, "Conservatively, no." Little Zudi glanced at him, thought for a moment, and chose not to believe it. "Nonsense," she said angrily. "I was obviously sleeping in my cave last night, but when I woke up, I ended up here. It must be you who did it." "I kidnapped him." The Third Prince's eyebrows moved, but in just 3 words, he realized that not only the body and mind of the little girl in front of him, but also her memory had returned to her childhood, just like a real 10,000-year-old ancestor who had spanned more than 300,000 years. Years of time and space appeared in front of him. He is a real kid. His Highness the Third Prince smiled slightly. He was very good at coaxing a child. He searched for the few words about the god Zudi that he got from Emperor Donghua, and observed little Zudi's expression as he spoke. "Your father Tangqi from Gugu Mountain is one of my old friends. Dad is in a hurry. I needed to leave Zhengze, but I was afraid that you wouldn't let him go, so I brought you here while you were sleeping and entrusted me to take care of you for a while." After hearing his explanation, little Zudi was very surprised and leaned forward 2 inches. "Do you actually know Father Tangqi?" Without waiting for His Highness the Third Prince to answer, he immediately shuddered and stepped back, looking at him warily. Did you lie to me? His Highness said no. She felt embarrassed and muttered, If you say you don't have it, then you don't have it. Then how can you prove that you don't have it? His Highness the Third Prince thought for a while. This is the 10 miles of Peach Grove. Xiao Guangshan must have heard of the 10 miles of Peach Grove. I am a friend of the owner of this peach forest. How could I lie to you? Xianjun, the owner of Shirley Peach Grove, is the only colorful phoenix in the 8 wastelands. Although she has never interacted with Jianjun, she also knows that he has been raised under the knee of Father God since he was a child. He is highly valued by Father God and has impeccable character. Since he is Xianjun's friend, he should not be a bad person, and he should not be lying to himself. Little Zudi breathed a sigh of relief and lowered her guard. As soon as her guard was down, her curiosity emerged. She looked at the young man curiously. I know Mr. Jian has a friend who grew up with him. Don't you could it be his friend Mo Yuanjun? His Highness the Third Prince denied her guess, saying it was not the case, and asked her again, Do you know the Lord of Heaven? Of course Tianjun knows that there are 376 clan branches in the God clan, among which there are 47 noble families, and the Tian clan is one of the 47 noble families. She nodded. He is the leader of the Celestial clan. His Highness the Third also nodded. I am the third son of Tianjun, the leader of the Celestial clan, and my name is Lian Song. You can call me. He paused and came up with a title for her. You can call me Brother Liansan. She was very curious. Why should I call you brother? His Highness smiled and said, Because I am older than you. This reason was convincing. She thought about it and agreed. Well, that's right. But she was still a little arrogant. But I am the god of light. Dad Tangqi said that if you have to climb if we are related, only the Lord of Wind, who is also the god of nature, can be called brother by me. Thinking of this, she was a little angry again. It's a pity that little girl Senming doesn't allow me to call Sijia brother. Actually, I don't like it that much either. Call others brother. Then she looked at the young man drinking tea. I can call you by your name directly. She paused. What's your name? His Highness didn't mind that she didn't remember his name. He put down the teacup and flicked his fan on the armrest of the bamboo chair. But I think it's most appropriate for you to call me brother. Little Zudi crossed her legs and hugged the quilt, insisting, It's not very suitable. She stared at him, really puzzled. Why do you want to be my brother so much? Why? Because he remembered that she called him Xiao Sanling in 1,000 desperate situations, and saw that she was so innocent and easy to deceive when she was a child. He started to play tricks on her, and wanted to deceive her and take advantage of her while she didn't understand anything. But of course this cannot be said. Little Zudi saw the young man was silent for a moment, and then looked at her with a profound expression. This is for your own good. She couldn't understand. Why is it for my own good? The Third Highness looked down at the ground. Following his gaze, the corners of her eyes twitched. Lying on the ground was the white jade tea bowl that she had broken before. His Highness the Third Prince asked her, Did you break this? He then said, This tea bowl is extremely precious and is Lord Jian's favorite thing. If you call me brother, then I can intercede on your behalf and compensate him for you. This treasure. But if you have nothing to do with me. He smiled faintly. Then you need to take this tea bowl and go to Mr. Jian to apologize. Mr. Jian is very scary when he gets angry. Little Zudi was stunned for a long time, then muttered, Gugu also has a treasure. I can compensate him. The Third Highness did not frighten the child's shame at all. Does Gugu have a white jade tea bowl that is exactly the same as this one? Little Zudi shook her head with a pale face. No. She tightened the quilt. Then, what should I do? His Highness the Third Prince condescended to point her out. So I think you may need a brother who can protect you. What do you think? Xiao Zudi looked at him with a sad face. If I call you brother, can you guarantee that Mr. Jian will not be angry or come to trouble me? His Highness the Third nodded. Of course. She was still struggling with herself. But brother is a very important relative. How can you call others brother casually? His Highness the Third Highness disagreed. This is just a very casual title. Little Zudi looked at him, her big eyes filled with mist, looking very pitiful. She blinked, and there was a little curiosity in her moist eyes. Then are there many people calling you brother? The Third Highness was stunned. This was not true. His mother's family was powerful and had many relatives. There were actually a few cousins in the branch, but he was very alienated from them. When he met them occasionally, he treated them coldly, which made them very afraid. No one dared to call him brother, but they all respectfully called him Third Highness. This was interesting. He just noticed that no one had ever called him brother in his 70,000 years of life. No one has ever called me that. He answered her truthfully. Oh, that's okay. She nodded. Her eyes wandered around the broken porcelain on the ground, and then around his face. As if she had made some important decision, she clenched her right hand to cover her face. He coughed softly and announced, I can call you brother, but if I accept you as my brother, you have to be very nice to me, like Sijia is nice to Xie Ming, and you can't let others call you anymore. Brother, can you do it? This time, His Highness asked her why. Why can't others call me brother again? Little Zudi immediately sat up straight, raised her head slightly, and said very proudly, because I am the god of light, and the god of light is so domineering. Of course, this is not the case. The fact is that today she suddenly discovered that she might have always been a little envious of Sijia. He is Xie Ming's unique brother. By chance, a good-looking young man fell from the sky and wanted to be her brother. She hoped that he could be her unique brother. The Third Highness raised his eyebrows and said nothing for a moment. She looked at him a little nervously. After a while, His Highness the Third Prince replied to her, okay. Little Zudi was overjoyed and immediately clasped her hands together. Then let's establish the bone-eating mantra. Father Tangqi said that the bone-eating mantra is a more credible existence than blood relationship. He secretly murmured in a longing tone, Sijia and Xie Ming have established the bone-eating mantra, and Sijia has always been very good to little Xie Ming. After saying this, she closed her eyes, paused, and muttered something, which was to summon the holy fire of the mantra. His Highness has never had such a conversation with anyone, so sincere, innocent, childish, and nonsensical. But I don't know why, but it feels familiar. He should be prudent, thoughtful, step by step, and always obtain the best results at the minimum cost, such as His Highness Lian San. He actually knew very well that halfway through the conversation with Xiao Zidi, he had gained her trust and achieved his goal. Later, he insisted on calling her brother, just to tease her. There is no need for him to make this vicious oath from ancient times just for a few jokes. He must know that once this curse is made, it will be bound to eternal life. But when he came back to his senses, he was surprised to find that he had summoned the holy fire of Samadhi as a witness to the oath, and said, the way of heaven is brilliant and majestic, and the kings of the four seas have sworn here for the rest of their lives. Everyone will treat the light god ancestor T with sincerity and kindness, and if he violates this oath, he will be burned by the fire of heaven until he dies. Little Zudi knelt down and sat on the edge of the bed, raised her hand, put her small palm against his palm, and said some simple words. I will also be kind to Brother Lian San. If I violate my oath, willing to suffer the punishment of being burned by fire from heaven. When the words were finished, the holy fire turned into a red flower, which was printed on the back of the two people's hands, and then slowly disappeared and submerged into the bones and blood. The vow is made. The girl's palm was still close to his. She raised her eyes, her butterfly-like eyelashes trembling slightly, glanced at him, then looked at him again, as if she was a little embarrassed, and coughed in a disguised manner. Okay, now you are my brother. Then she called him softly, Brother Lensan. His Highness the Third Highness was slightly shocked at this statement. In fact, he was still joking at the moment before taking the oath, but at this moment, she called him Brother Lensan, and she looked so well-behaved that he could no longer think that it was just a joke. He suddenly remembered that the emperor had mentioned to him that Zhu Ti was only 100,000 years old when she was sacrificed, and due to the different body of the light god, she was asleep for most of the 100,000 years she existed. According to this calculation, she is actually just a little girl god who is only 50,000 years old. In the Ancana Hall, he spent half an hour with her as an adult. Her alertness, composure, and quick response left a deep impression on him, but what impressed him most was the sweetness in her face when she took off her human skin mask and smiled at him. For a moment, His Highness the Third Prince felt that both the adult Zhu Ti and the young Zhu Ti matched him perfectly when called Lien Third Brother. Just as he was lost in thought, a hand suddenly patted his arm. "Did you hear what I said?" His Highness the Third Prince came back to his senses, looked at the serious expression of the girl in front of him, and said seriously, "You just said that if you make the bone-eating mantra, we will be very close. But the person you are closest to is Father Tangqi, and two can be your second relative, right?" Little Zudi muttered suspiciously, "You are obviously distracted." But he accurately repeated what she just said, so she didn't care and coughed. "I'll go on," solemnly warned he said. "You can't be distracted this time." His Highness the Third Prince hummed and imitated her solemn expression. She nodded with satisfaction and continued, "You can be my second relative. People who are close to me can call me Ao, which is the nickname given to me by Dad Tangqi." She raised her chin proudly, feeling a little proud, "Because I am the treasure of the ant, with jade bones and ice posture, so I am called Ao. You can also call me like this, even the third brother." Seeing her solemnly boasting that she was the treasure of the ant, with jade bones and ice-like appearance, the Third Highness felt funny for a moment. "Okay, I'll call you Ao." He smiled. But when he said the word, Au, there was a roar in his mind, like a sudden surge of thousands of waves on the sea, and the rumble was captured. He was in a daze for a moment, and his heart tightened. He felt that the name was very familiar, but looking back on the past, he didn't know anyone named Au. He rubbed his forehead, and when the girl in front of him pursed her lips and smiled, he raised his hand to rub her head and called her again, Au. He suppressed the palpitations in his heart. After Lord Baizhen finished handling the political affairs in the southeast wilderness and returned to Shirley Peach Grove from Qingqiu, Lord Jian mentioned to him the matter of Lord Liansong and God Zhu Ti coming to Peach Grove. Lord Baizhen sat cross-legged and forgot to pick up the rice when he heard this. He pushed the plate and was shocked. So, the sudden martial law in Qianjua Palace that night was because of the ancestors? Master Jian pushed back the plate he pushed out. "I'm surprised. Don't take the opportunity to push this plate of spinach to me." He took 2 chopsticks from the dish and piled them into Master Baizhen's bowl and advised him sincerely, "Eating more spinach is good for your blood and eyes." Urged him, "Eat quickly." Lord Baizhen took a bite of spinach with difficulty, swallowed it with the tea, and showed an expression of a disabled person. But Qing Yang probably didn't realize that it was the god Zhu Ti who broke into the Thousand Desolations. After he recovered, he continued the topic. When we said goodbye to him the next day, he actually asked Lord Yihua why his third uncle was not here. "That boy Yihua had been drinking with me and my eldest brother all night, so how could he know?" But he was also quick-witted. He just said that his uncle had a hangover and a headache, and it was inconvenient to stay in this palace, so he went back to Juzongshan early in the morning. Lian Songjun, the third prince of the Tian clan, is not bound by etiquette, and his reputation for being romantic and wanton has spread throughout the world, so Qing Jiang did not raise any suspicion. Although Lord Baizhen has become a god and has lived for more than 10,000 years, he is still very playful and enjoys hearing strange things. After explaining the situation of Qianjijing, he looked at Lord Jian curiously. "You just said that Lian Song gained the trust of the little Zhu Ti god in just a day or two. In the past half-month, whether it was exploring the mountains or boating on the lake, the Zhu Ti god asked him to accompany him." De Jian nodded. God Baizhen praised and exclaimed, "To be able to get along so well with God Zudi in just a day or two, Tianjun, the third prince, is really capable." Master Jian didn't like to hear Master Baizhen praise others, so he said, "Little Zudi, she is naive, gullible, and unsuspecting. She will get close to anyone who wants to play with her. It is easiest to fool her." This is also true. I don't want to accompany her as a child to play nonsense. If I am willing to condescend, do you believe that she will be very close to me? Master Baizhen put down his chopsticks, thought steadily for a moment, and answered cautiously, I may not believe it. Seeing Master Jian's face turn cold, Master Baizhen immediately changed his words without any ambition. Maybe do you believe it? But Jian Shangshan's expression still did not improve. Baizhen Shangshan picked out the spinach that he had buried under rice at the edge of the bowl and took 2 bites in an attempt to win Jian Shangshan's favor. Okay, just now I was kidding you. He tried to smile sincerely. Master Jian simply didn't want to talk to him, so he turned to look at Bai Fengniao, who was sitting on his knees and waiting beside him with no sense of presence. That boy Lian San has led Zhu Ti to stay in this peach forest for half a month. When are you leaving? Bai Fengniao said respectfully, back to God. The 3rd prince is cautious and said that he will observe for 2 more days and leave after confirming that the ancestors are safe. Master Jian said angrily, that little god of light spends all day fishing and hunting birds. She is more energetic than me. What else can she do? Tell them to leave quickly. It will make them upset. Bai Fengniao responded respectfully and said yes. Lord Baizhen lowered his head and used his chopsticks to bury the spinach in the rice again and murmured in a low voice, It's not like I just praised the 3rd prince and you angered him like this. Yanshang was sullen. How could I be so jealous because of a junior? Lord Baizhen burst out laughing. Although he stopped in time when Lord Jian's eye knife flew towards him, his eyes were still smiling. Oh, jealousy makes waves, he said leisurely. Jian Shangshan was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and smiled, and gave Bai Zhen Shangshan a helpless look. Have a good meal. I missed my lunch on the way, and the meal I made up for it is not delicious. You have to let others eat. Look, are you still a child? Seeing the 2 masters talking affectionately again, the honest Bai Fengniao felt confused. Then do we need to drive away the 3rd prince and Xiao Guangshan who had been living in Taolin for half a month? He originally wanted to ask God Jian again, but at this time, the 2 gods were gathered together at the dinner table. They spoke in a low voice with a sense of peace and tranquility over time. It was not an atmosphere that he could interrupt. Although he was honest, he was also very polite. Bai Fengniao, who winked, retreated silently. When he walked 5 steps outside the hall, he remembered that there were guests in Taolin, so he walked back cautiously and thoughtfully closed the door for the 2 gods. Bai Fengniao was troubled all afternoon and waited until sunset, ready to explore Jian Shangshan's tone again. Unexpectedly, His Highness the 3rd Prince came to say goodbye with Xiao Guangshan. It turned out that a message came from Yuanji Palace, saying that an important matter had suddenly occurred in heaven, and that His Highness was waiting to return to make the decision. Lord Baizhen was resting in his room, and Lord Jian came out alone to see off the guests. He suppressed his happiness and sent the 2 of them away. When His Highness the 3rd Highness led little Zudi back to the 9 heavens, no one was disturbed. In the 10-mile peach forest, after Xiao Zudi woke up, His Highness the 3rd Highness sent a letter to Tianbu, so when His Highness the 3rd Highness brought Xiao Zudi back to Yuanji Palace, Tianbu was not surprised. And because God Zudi is like this now, her identity should not be disclosed. In order to avoid unnecessary complications, Tianbu made arrangements in advance, so that the palace only thought that this beautiful little girl was the sister of a friend of His Highness the 3rd Highness, and the friend regarded her as his beloved sister. I left it to the care of His Highness, and was taken back to Yuanji Palace by His Highness. This shows Tianbu's stability. The 3rd Highness returned home after a long journey. As soon as he finished bathing, he summoned Tianbu to report the matter. The fact that Tianbu, who had always been calm and steady, felt anxious and had to invite His Highness back from Shirley Taolin was really a big deal. It is said that more than half a month ago, the Xianming god in charge of the northern wilderness presented a message to Tianjun, saying that there was an evil dragon infested at the junction of the northern wilderness and the northeast wilderness, and it was causing harm to several small mortal countries there. I hope he, the old man, can send a powerful general down to subdue this dragon. For convenience, Tianjun has always left the task of taming the ferocious beasts to his young son, who is brave and capable of fighting. This time he also planned to follow the old routine and tell his youngest son about the matter when he returns to the heavenly palace. As a result, after Qingjiang's wedding, the prince, Siming Xingjuan, Su and Xianjun all returned as scheduled, but his youngest son disappeared without knowing where he was. Tianjun had no choice but to pick out the records of Xianming God and hold a meeting in the Lingxiao Palace to discuss with the ministers who should subdue the ferocious beast. Unexpectedly, Prince Yehua took the initiative to ask for help and beg Tianjun to give him this opportunity to experience. In the past 10,000 years, whenever there was an errand to tame ferocious beasts, the third prince would indeed take the young prince to gain experience. Tianjun thought about it for a long time and felt that this was a good opportunity to temper the prince, so he decided. On the 9th day when the prince went to the lower realm, the corpse of the evil dragon appeared at the foot of Kongsang Mountain in the eastern wasteland. The corpse of the dragon was huge, long, and terrifying in appearance. Taibai Xingjuan went down to the realm at the order of Tianjun and personally examined the fatal wound on the dragon's head and judged that the wound was indeed cut by His Highness the Crown Prince's Qiming sword. This shows that the dragon was indeed killed by the Crown Prince. The prince was so brave that he was able to subdue the evil dragon at only 30,000 years old. This should have been a great comfort to the emperor. But the problem was that although the evil dragon was killed, the prince also disappeared. Tianjun was worried and angry about this and ordered Taibai Xingjuan to secretly investigate the prince's whereabouts. But Taibai Xingjuan searched for 7 days and found nothing. That's why Tianjun issued an order to Yuanji Palace, ordering the immortal attendants in the palace to contact the third prince quickly and summon him back. Because when it comes to investigating information, in the entire 9 heavens, Yuanji Palace is the most reliable one. His Highness the Third Prince wiped his hair and listened to Tianbu's confession. He frowned and asked, "What did the 24 civil and military servants say?" The 24 civil and military attendants are the 24 immortal attendants in Yuanji Palace who are very good at inquiring about information. They are personally trained by His Highness the Third Highness. They are divided into 12 civil attendants and 12 martial attendants. Bahuang recognized that Yuanji Palace was well informed, and these 24 immortal attendants were indispensable. Tianbu defended the unparalleled reputation of the 24 civil and military servants who dominated the 9 heavens in the process of detecting the news, although there was no progress at the Taibai Star Lord. The Weijia Immortal sent back the news 2 hours ago, saying that the prince had been found. His Highness is in Chaoyang Valley. His Highness the Third Prince stopped wiping his hair with his hand. Chaoyang Valley? The Tian Trail analyzed it piece by piece and told it eloquently. Immortal Weijia said that His Royal Highness the Prince was recuperating in the Lutai Palace in Chaoyang Valley. The Lutai Palace was strictly forbidden and he could not sneak in, so he used some means to get out of the palace from a man who left the palace. The palace man found some news. According to the news, His Royal Highness was injured after killing the evil dragon. He was rescued by Wang Ji, the leader of the Bluebird clan who was passing by, and was brought back to Lutai Palace. According to the palace man, Lutai Palace, they were not allowed in the Tai Palace to rescue Chang Wang Ji. There is a rumor about the prince of the Celestial clan. The immortal Wei Jia once wondered whether His Highness the Crown Prince was seriously injured. The Bluebird tribe was afraid that something might happen to His Highness, so they were unwilling to take responsibility. However, the palace man categorically said that His Highness the Crown Prince was not seriously injured, but he just couldn't wake up. Chang Wangji, who was serving him day and night, was very anxious. When the Third Highness heard this, he just finished wiping his hair. He threw the cotton towel aside, took out the incense stick from the incense bottle on the desk, and motioned to Tianbu to continue. "Tell me your opinion." Tianbu does have some opinions. "I think this matter is a bit tricky." Tianbu frowned. The Bluebird clan rescued His Highness the Crown Prince, but hid His Highness. If they were subjects of my celestial clan, of course they can be punished immediately. But the Bluebird clan has lived in Qingqiu Chaoyang Valley for a long time. but they're the subjects of the nine-tailed white fox clan. It is not good for them to go past the Qingqiu Bai family and go directly to find trouble for the Blue Bird clan. But they have to go through the Bai family and ask the Fox Emperor Baiji for an order. The Blue Bird tribe sent His Highness the Crown Prince back, but they were afraid. At this point, he hesitated and said, "I dare not speak ill of Emperor Baiji and Master Bai Qian." Tianwu didn't dare to talk nonsense about gods and immortals, but His Highness the Third Highness didn't dare to do anything. While lowering his head to add incense, he helped Tianwu finish her unfinished words, "But I'm afraid that the Bai family will use this as a raft to compete with Yi." Hua broke off the engagement, right? Tianwu looked sad, sighed softly, and couldn't help but murmur, "Although His Highness the Crown Prince doesn't know, how could you not know, Third Highness, that Supreme Immortal Bai Qian has actually been dissatisfied with his marriage to His Highness the Crown Prince? What if the Supreme Immortal knew about it?" His Royal Highness the Crown Prince was rescued by Wang Ji of the Blue Bird clan, and Wang Ji still had a crush on His Highness and served him at his bedside every day. That was why the Blue Bird clan did not repay His Highness the Prince's kindness. He had always been thinking about the Supreme Immortal Bai Qian, who wanted to break off the engagement. "I will definitely seize this opportunity and ask the Tangqi clan to cancel the engagement in the name of a perfect match." Tianwu frowned. "That's why I find this matter difficult. It's just that I don't understand why the Blue Bird clan wants to. It won't do them any good if His Highness hides." His Highness the Third Prince put down the incense sticks and smiled faintly. "Since you have already made a pretty good guess about the Bai family's attitude after learning about this matter, why can't you turn this corner?" He took the silk handkerchief handed over by Tianwu. Wiping his hands, "If my guess is correct, the Bluebird clan strictly prohibits the Lutai Palace people from leaking information about Yihua. They just don't want Bai Qian to know about it. Because they also know that Bai Qian is dissatisfied with this marriage. Once they learn about Yihua, when Hua is in Lutai Palace, he will definitely take the opportunity to break off his engagement with the Tian clan. What good will it do to them if Bai Qian breaks off the engagement? This is certainly not the purpose of detaining Yihua in Lutai Palace." After His Highness Dessen pointed this out, Tianwu suddenly became clear and thought about it carefully. The Bluebird clan also understands that we Celestial clan don't want Master Bai Qian to know about this matter. So regarding this matter, there is only one best way we can choose, is to secretly send people to Chaoyang Valley to reach a peace agreement with them and welcome the prince back. His Highness the Third nodded and praised, "Not too stupid." But Tianwu was not happy to be praised. The more he thought about it, the deeper his frown became. So, the Bluebird clan actually wants to use His Highness the Crown Prince as a hostage to cross the Bai family and exchange benefits for my Celestial clan? He couldn't help but be surprised. Angry. They are so brave. His Highness the Third Highness was very calm. They do have something they want to exchange, but it may not be benefits. After lowering his eyes and thinking for a moment, he asked Tianwu, "Is there anything in the Star Order Cave, the forbidden area of the Blue Bird clan?" "A star-studded gold stone." Tianwu was stunned for a moment. Although she was one of the best immortals in Jizongshan, she didn't know everything. For example, she had never heard of the star-floating gold stone, and she didn't know what the purpose of His Highness's sudden mention of the gold stone was. Fortunately, His Highness the Third Prince just asked casually and did not continue the topic. He only told her, "Get ready. After meeting Tianjun tomorrow, you can come with me to Chaoyang Valley. The business is done." Tianwu took the order and retreated to the door of the dormitory, preparing to wait for His Highness the Third Prince to fall asleep before leaving. Not wanting to stand for a while, I met a man who came to the palace with a pillow in his arms. When the visitor saw her, he nodded to her naturally, crossed the threshold with his skirt in hand, and headed indoors in a swaggering manner. Tianwu has been working as an errand in Yuanji Palace for 50,000 years. She has seen proud, willful, and bold beauties, but she has never met a beauty who dared to come to His Highness's bedroom at night with a pillow in her arms. Tianwu was stunned, and she didn't react until the little beauty had entered the palace. She quickly followed in, trying to stop the intruder before she could do anything. But at the same time, she also felt that her identity might not be enough to stop this ancestor. The ancestor is a genuine ancestor. The person who came was none other than the little Ziti god. When little Ziti ran into His Highness the Third Prince's bedroom, the Third Highness was undressing. He was only wearing a pair of silk trousers. He was reaching out to take the clothes from the rosewood hanger in front of him. He never expected that someone would break in at this time. Come on, so when little Ziti let out a wow in wonder, His Highness the Third Highness actually failed to react. After she said, wow, she remembered that it might not be polite to barge in hastily. I'm sorry, Brother Liansan, I didn't know you were changing clothes. Xiao Ziti apologized casually, and without waiting for His Highness Third Prince's response, she waved her hand in a general-like manner, but you don't need to pay attention to me, continue. Change it, I won't disturb you. Then he stopped looking at him and walked straight to the bed. His Highness the Third Prince was frozen for a moment. He thought the scene was magical for a while and thought little Ziti was ridiculous for a while. Finally, he remembered the words of God Jian in 10 Miles of Peach Grove. I heard that Ziti was a child. Anyway, I wish you good luck. He didn't know what this meant at first, but after spending half a month with little Ziti, he probably understood that Jian Shangshan probably wanted to say that Ziti was actually quite naughty when she was a child. Just think about it. Is it unusual for a naughty child to break into his bedroom in the middle of the night? Not surprising. Therefore, after being frozen for a moment, His Highness quickly regained his composure. He put on his bright clothes and fastened his belt. He turned around and wanted to ask Xiao Ziti why she came to see him so late, but he saw that she had already sat on his jade bed and was lying there with a pillow. Little Ziti lined up the pillows she brought with his, and when she saw him coming over, with crooked eyebrows, she announced to him as a matter of course, I'm going to sleep here too tonight, with Brother Lian San. San Dian fell a little as he reached the bed. Xiao Ziti quickly stretched out a hand to support him, hugged his arm nervously, and looked up at him. Brother Lian San, what's wrong with you? His Highness the Third Prince glanced at her and said calmly, it's nothing. Is it strange for a child to be in a strange place and not used to living alone? He is scared at night and wants to stick to the people closest to him? Not surprising. The Third Highness figured it out quickly, but Tianbu, who had just followed, didn't think it was unusual. Hearing what Xiao Ziti said, his jaw dropped. Your Majesty, do you want to sleep here? Seeing Xiao Ziti, Zhu Ti had already thrown herself on the bed, and then she remembered His Highness Third Highness's mysophobia. Tianbu's eyes twitched, and he hurriedly walked up to help Zhu Ti. Your Majesty, please get up first. This is not good. The man and woman are 7,000 years old. You shouldn't be sharing the same bed. Seeing Tianbu coming to help her, little Ziti simply kicked off her shoes and retreated into the bed. She only stuck out her head and asked suspiciously, a man and a woman shouldn't share the same bed when they are 7,000 years old? Why didn't I know? She shrugged. He shrugged. Let's forget it, but I have no gender. I can be a boy or a girl. I can be considered a boy now. Even my third brother is a boy. We don't have any distinction between men and women. Tianbu lost his balance and almost fell. What? But isn't the god of light a goddess? It's not Tianbu's fault. There are not many gods in the world who know that the god of light is born without gender and can be either male or female when he is young. She only thought that little Ziti was joking and talking nonsense just to live with His Highness the Third Highness. She couldn't help but smile bitterly. Your Majesty, don't scare me. If your Majesty is afraid of living alone in the same palace, then the slave. Xiao Ziti's face instantly turned red when she was poked at the central point. However, she was a proud god of light. How could she admit that she was afraid of living alone in the same palace? Therefore, even though she felt guilty, she still tried hard to deny, I am not alone in being afraid. I just feel. She rolled her eyes. Sometimes when I want to drink water in the middle of the night, I need someone to give me water, so I can't live alone. Tianbu stepped forward and persuaded Ruru. The slave can stay in the Lord's bedroom. Not only can he pour water for the Lord, but if the Lord kicks the quilt, the slave can also cover the lord with the quilt. But I'm very picky. Xiao Zudi puffed up her cheeks and frowned. I don't drink water poured by others, she said without confidence. Tianbu was about to persuade her again, but His Highness the Third Highness, who stood quietly aside, raised his hand to stop him. Just let her live here. Tianbu had a preconceived notion that little Zudi was a little girl, so he persistently believed that it was inappropriate for her to stay with him. But when Zhu Ti returned to her childhood, she had no gender. Indeed, as she said, she could be a boy or a girl, and she, who had made the bone-eating antro with her, was her second closest relative in this world. It's understandable that she has no inhibitions in front of him. Innocent and pure, this is the young god of light. His Highness the Third Highness thinks that such a little god of light is very pure, and it is a bit funny for her to fight wits and courage with Tianbu in order to stay with him, so she raised her hand to end the two. People argued about this matter and finally allowed her to stay with him. Tianbu naturally doesn't understand, but the reason why Tianbu is right is that even if he doesn't understand, since it is his order, he will never say anything more. But of course His Highness the Third Highness would not sleep with Xiao Guangxin, so he gave Tianbu one more instruction. Let her sleep on my bed, and you have someone bring in another couch and a partition screen. He pointing to the side. Put it right here. He also said, go and make a bed on the floor next to her bed. Seeing that little Zudi seemed to have any objections, she coaxed her and said, I can help you pour water. You can kick it. Quilt Tianbu can take care of you. Xiao Zudi thought for a while and said nothing more. Tianbu immediately blessed him. I'll do it now, my slave. After Tianbu left, the third palace lowered his eyes and looked at Xiao Zudi. Tianbu and I are with you, so you won't be afraid, right? The little light god in a plain white dress is sitting on the jade bed with a quilt in her arms. Her black hair is like a waterfall, and the color is extraordinary. Under the candlelight, she reveals a kind of divine beauty. Hearing what he said, Xiao Zudi lifted the quilt a little, hugged him tightly, glared at him lightly, and whispered, I said I'm not afraid. His Highness the Third Prince joked, okay, you didn't. You just wanted to find someone to pour water for you in the middle of the night. Little Zudi glared at him again. That's it. End of Chapter 5, Book 3.